We are on, things are rolling, and I just want to tell you this is Dan Ringwald here from the Santa Barbara Real Estate Investor Association, and I have Cliff Gager here. And Cliff, you are now out there in Florida, right?
Sunny Florida. It's my home state. I grew up here. I was born here. I was born in the House of the Mouse. I was born in Orlando and raised, my dad was in the military, so we traveled a lot in Asia and whatnot, but came back to and settled in St. Petersburg. So my youth was spent from, like 7 years old until I was in my 30s when I left St. Petersburg to go on my big adventure. Had a few spots out there where I moved to New Jersey for a little while and worked in the casinos, but that's a whole nother book.
So you've been living the life in Florida from way back.
Yeah,
left for a while, and now you're back.
Yeah, I was out in the LA area for about 23 years, I think, 22 years.
Okay.
And I love it. I love Los Angeles. I love California. We used to have a ranch down in San Diego County. Everybody's like, "Oh, what did you grow?" And I'm like, "Dirt."
Lots of dirt.
Lots of dirt. So,
well, I just, as you know, there's a lot of people leaving California, going to Florida and all points beyond. And I just read this morning that we have the largest exodus of people leaving the United States heading to other places in the world than we've had since the 1930 Depression. And I thought, oh, that's pretty interesting.
Well, it's interesting, and to not get into the politics of it, is news has become opinionated. So rather than just getting the news, we get somebody's opinion about what's happening, and a lot of times that can be construed to whatever that person wants to construe it to. So I think when a lot of people wake up and they realize things, it comes down to being happy. And
it really is
happy. And I'm older now. I'm 61.
Right.
So
and the happiness is more important.
I'm starting to mellow out,
That is so cool. Well, I've got a number of times in our REIA meetings where I've stood up in front of everybody and said, well, on one of the sites I have, which is a personal power project, I've got this whole page about opinions are like awesome. Yes. Everybody has one, and they all look at me and they go, "No, Dan, I don't think that's what they said." And I said, "I know they didn't say that, but what I'm saying is that they're awesome." And then if you read all that, it's all about, you get to actually know who somebody's being by listening to their opinion, and you can learn a lot, and you don't have to argue with them. You don't have to disagree. You just have an opportunity to learn. And what you learn is one or two things. I want to be around that person a lot. Like I want to be around Cliff Gager, because this guy's got a lot of good experience, and he's high energy, and he's wonderful to work with, and lively and friendly. And or you come away with, I think I'm going to run as fast as I can from this other person, because I kind of get where they are from listening to their opinion, and I don't need to make them wrong. I just need to make a choice.
My problem is I really like to talk.
You're great. That's why I love you.
I love to share experiences, and most of the time, I've found that I've had some really interesting experiences in my life, and gained a lot of insight of things to do. Like my real estate business, I was talking to somebody this morning about it, and reflecting back on it. I said to him, he's like, well, so you flipped houses? I says, yeah, I did like about 5,000 of them. And he was like, oh my God, that's a lot. And I'm like, well, not really. I've been doing it for 34 years. So when you kind of bring it back to how many years I've been doing it, and then how many deals I've done, yes, I know it's a lot, but the point is, when you're doing it every day, and you have systems built, you don't realize what you do. But then I had like this out-of-body experience as I was talking to him. I was like, wow, that is a lot.
That is a lot.
So it's kind of like, and not to disparage anybody, but a lot of times when I was heavily into the circuit of going around and speaking and whatnot, I got to see a lot of other speakers. And, you know, it always used to make me laugh of how somebody would quote themselves as an expert, and then tell you about the 5 deals that they've done in their lifetime.
Right.
I'm
Oh my
like,
God.
yeah, but it also makes you feel really old too. So,
Well, you know, we're doing all that stuff, and I've got videos of other, you know, meetings that I've had, video chats with different speakers, and it's funny because I was looking at them going, well, okay, this was 20 minutes, this was 15, this was 30 minutes. Hey, here's my one on Cliff Gager I did like 5 years ago, and it was 2.5 hours, and I went, this guy is a talker.
So it's not that I don't like to talk. So.
It's good. That's how you get to know people.
Yeah.
And that, you know,
go ahead.
it's really about building relationships. So if you are there and available, and that's why we're having really short meetings in small places so that we can actually build those relationships, spend that time at lunch networking and getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm just basically going to force people into, you know, being there for the first 2 or 3 hours, and then after lunch, we don't do any more talks or anything. It's just the lunch, and then whoever wants to hang out and then go home. That's it. So it really forces people into, if you're going to be here, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to collect your money up front, and then if you don't show up, I'm going to thank you for your donation. If you do show up, I'm going to buy you lunch with your money.
And you know, Dan, when I was out there, I had some meetings out in Los Angeles and Burbank, and I would hold like an investor meeting, not like a REIA or anything. It was more based on training and people that wanted to be there to learn more about, you know, getting serious about actually putting things together and making things happen rather than just talking about it. And it's expensive. I mean, it would cost me, you know, $1,000 for one evening, and we'd have 12 people there. Ooh. And well, but it was okay because I mean they were paying for it. But like when I was doing the seminar circuit and I was doing the back end fulfillment for all the gurus and whatnot, you know, it was $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for the weekend. And that was just cost. Right. And since COVID has happened, I think it's almost doubled or tripled for the most part for the same thing. Now, I know time has gone by, but it's been 6 years.
Well, and one of the reasons it doubled and tripled is because, first of all, nobody was showing up for 2 or 3 years because they couldn't. And then when they finally could, there was so much money being lost. Everybody had to make up for those event venues that they had. So they had to charge 3 times the amount. Right. And things have just grown. And then people just aren't showing up because they're used to doing what we're doing right now, either doing it or listening to it here online without having to go to that stuff. So a lot's changed.
And the big one, everybody was afraid.
Well, there's a lot more fear going around, and you know, there's always the fear of being conned and all kinds of things going on.
Oh no, they were just afraid to go out of their house because of the whole thing.
Yeah, they'd been locked in so long. It was like, well, what do I do now, and where do I go? And you know, we're working from home, and you know,
which is why I like being in Florida.
Yeah, really, especially when you realize that you can work from home, and a lot more people are doing it. All of a sudden you go, oh, well, if I'm going to be working from home, I want to have a nice place with some space. I can have my studio and different things that I can do. And this is really making life a lot more enjoyable for a lot of people.
And that's true. And you could tell because a lot more people gained weight. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Well, no, because people were comfortable, relaxed.
Right.
Because I mean, like if you look at gorillas in Africa, you know, they're big, the big gorillas. Right. And all they do is sit around and lay around and eat, you know, berries and fruit and whatnot.
Tough life.
I know.
I think as AI goes on and robots go on, eventually we'll probably have fewer people on the planet, and those people will enjoy being with humans more than they ever have because they're like, well, I'm just totally tired of AI and robots. And geez, there's a live human being. I want to be with them, you know.
Maybe.
I think they're going to enjoy that more, and they're also going to realize they don't have to work as hard as they used to because it's just going to be a lot easier with all the tools, especially having AI as your mentor telling you absolutely everything you ever needed to know to do anything.
I'm doing some things with AI that are astounding. You know, just a little bit of my background. I dropped out of school in 9th grade in the early 80s because I was smarter than the teachers. And I say that jokingly, but I had a 144 IQ, so I kind of was.
You were.
And I mean, I figured out all by myself back then with no internet and, nothing, that you could quit school at 16 years old. So I did, and I went into the workforce. But the funny part about that is basically intelligence today, like I write contracts and I write legal contracts and I educate attorneys that have been writing contracts for decades. I teach them things, I mean, that's my forte. I write contracts. I know contractual law. I'm not an attorney. I just play one on TV, right? That's my joke. But I seriously do. I mean, I've educated some really high attorneys that said, no, you can't do that. And then I'd show them how I could, and it was legal. And they were like, wow,
you can't do that.
Yeah. Where'd you get your Juris Doctorate? And I'm like, well, I dropped out of school in 9th grade. And they don't believe me. But the funny thing about that is one of the things is yes, I'm very smart and I figured things out, and I made a lot of money in real estate, and I know really the best ways to engage in real estate and whatnot for both beginners and advanced people. But what I've learned is my writing skills are still at that lower level as far as composition. I hated English comp. I hated that. It was not my favorite class, and it shows. But with Claude, AI,
Mm-hmm.
I can write like Shakespeare,
Genius.
like a genius. But what's funny is I don't use it in a sense where I replace my mind or my thinking or my intelligence. I use it as an aid to extract the intelligence that's in there in a way that's presentable to someone like you, instead of it sounding like, quackery or whatever.
Right.
So I like to be able to go sit down with it and say, okay, here's what I'm doing. This is my outcome. This is what I'm looking for. And it's all in the prompt. If you figure out how to run these prompts, you can really extract a lot of information out of it in a good sense. But like one of the things I do is a certain writing style that I use. I've taken all of my heroes, for better lack of a better word, and I downloaded all of their writings and speaking, and I created PDFs, and then I created a massive PDF that's in my Google Drive that is instructions for the AI and how the AI thinks. So my AI thinks like me because I've given it my 34 years of real estate experience. I've given it my last 20 years of writing experience as far as contracts and marketing and all that. So when I go and sit down with it, I'm literally talking to myself, but the educated level of having all that knowledge at an instant, which, we have that capability, but squirrel,
Right. Distraction.
Right. So it really makes writing something a lot of fun, where I would think that had I stayed in school and had been taught well to where I would have learned those skills, maybe I would have had fun doing it. But I still don't know what an adverb versus an adjective is. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I know how to speak.
Very well, too.
But, most people today, the newspapers are written on a 9th grade level. So it's hilarious because I'll write something and then I plug it into the AI and it comes back and it's like, oh my God, that's exactly what I wanted to say that I couldn't get out. So then I'll be like, okay, let's do this change, that change, this change. And then finally I say, okay, now write it in a, so that the reader, if they're at a 9th grade level, reading level, so that I'm not speaking over everybody's head. And then it writes exactly what I wrote in the first place.
Wow. That is really amazing.
But anyways, I love where we're going with technology.
Yeah.
I'm building some new things that I've not been able to do in the past with AI, with my real estate experience. I haven't put it out there yet, but it's going. My goal was, if people don't know my history, I've been teaching people for a long time, since '99, I believe. So I haven't counted how many years that is. But I got into the seminar business, and I was doing the fulfillment for the gurus, the big gurus and the big seminar companies for their program. So they'd sell that $50,000, $100,000 program. I'm the guy that showed up to teach it. Now, the funny thing is I never taught their methodology. I didn't even know it. So, I could name all the people, but I don't want to embarrass people. But anybody you saw on TV, I taught their classes. Any of the big seminar companies that you would know, the big celebrity seminar companies, I taught their classes. But they hired me to teach my classes. And they generally hired me in the beginning because my strategies and techniques work, because I've done them for, 20, 30 years. And I made a living doing it, very good living. And I was really good at educating people because I knew the connects. I knew where I came from, how I understand things at the lower grade level, helped me educate the people that I was working with, because whether they were smart or not, it helped me explain things in a manner that they were like, oh, I finally get it, after all these years. I've heard this one say it. I heard that one say it. It's the exact same thing, but Cliff, you made me understand it. So that skill over the years is what I've put into the AI now. So I'm really excited because basically I'm creating something that will help that beginning person be able to go into a deal without fear, without trepidation, without lack of knowledge. And the one thing that has always been the first question that people ask me is how do I know how much it's worth? What is it worth? I can do appraisals. I could be an appraiser if I went and did the class to sit down and get an appraisal, because I know how to evaluate properties instantly. And then I also know how to find them. So I know how to search properties. I go back to the days we were talking earlier privately about, old computers and stuff. I go back to microfiche, when wow. Things were on that. So I've grown with the technology, and I love the technology. I think it's really going to change things. And I'm just saying, in probably the next 6 months, I'm going to be coming out with some applications that is literally going to change investors' lives to the better.
Interesting. Well, I'll tell you, you've probably noticed, which you have been doing it for probably a year now, playing around with AI, how much has changed in just the last 6 months. And I don't know if you've ever used any type of avatar type software that will, create videos out of pictures and whatnot. HeyGen is one of the leading ones out there. Yep. And I just used it recently to promote the Linux on the SantaBarbaraComputing.com website to help people move on to that. And I use what I'm calling Dan Younger, the younger Dan. So I took a picture from when I was 30 years old and turned it into a video. And now it explains that whole process. And before it was just kind of like, herky jerky, really, stiff. Now it's got this whole video presentation in the background of people using things and building computers and all this stuff that I never even said put in the background while you're explaining it. And I'm like, oh my God, this thing has just gone ballistic on the capabilities of what it makes for a promotional video or whatever. So that's something you might want to take a look at. It's funny because a lot of people have seen these videos recently of all these actors and actresses that were younger compared to how they look now. Well, there's a whole market starting to happen for using that old self to promote some new ideas and products and whatever else. And people are just kind of catching on to that going, okay, well, I guess,
it's also scary.
Part of me hasn't really died because I can go back and capture that youthful me and go promote this product or whatever. And, and it's not so much of just using an avatar or using the youthful me or whatever. It's really the whole process is saving you time and money by just basically giving a small, paragraph of what you want and letting it run wild and filling in all the blanks. And you go back and you go, this is saving me hours of production time, hours. Thousands of dollars of production time. So if you haven't used it much, you should check that HeyGen out.
And exactly what you just said is what I'm trying to create with the real estate aspect of it, because I delegate, I automate, and I duplicate. It's the DAD method,
right?
And basically, if you think about it, I operate in my real estate business on the CEO level. So if you were to use an example, the CEO of Chevrolet or Ford is not on the line putting lug nuts on a tire.
Right.
They find somebody that does that and does it exceptionally well, and they manage them. So I do my real estate the same way. And people were like, well, pre-COVID, we had a point where we were doing 30 plus houses a month in my network. And it's like, how could you do that? And it's that whole thing. And now with AI, I don't need like 40 people now.
Right.
I can automate the bot to do everything that they were doing. So it's getting pretty exciting. And
it really is. It's just, I just really get a sense that humanity's conscious level is going to just explode into, I can do all these easy things when I was stuck doing all those hard things, and I can actually make more money doing the easy things than I could all those hard things, and this is wonderful.
And then there's somebody selling pictures of their feet.
Yeah.
Man, I'm working so hard, making all this money, doing all these really cool things, and you're selling feet pictures and making the same thing. It's like, come on.
Yeah, you have to marvel at what clicks with the general population and people who put it out there, and it works, and you just go, oh, that's so beautiful. That is so good. I love
like,
that
why
so
didn't
much.
I think of that? Well, because weird.
There's something for everybody, and we're all
exactly.
As long as you're sticking with, as you are saying, being happy and going in that direction, you can't help but come across all kinds of exciting things.
And it's all the way this way and all the way that way, and everything in between. So it's just sometimes it's just bizarre.
It is, and I'm ready when you are, and we'll do this.
All right. I guess I share my screen first.
Yeah, and you've got it shared because I see the slide up there. And we are recording, so all you have to do is, there you go, click on your slides, and I'm going to kind of sit back and shut up and let you do your thing.
There we go. So everybody saw my first slide notes, so now you already know what I'm going to say. I don't even have to say it. That's the joy of AI. All right, thank you. I appreciate it, Dan. I miss coming to your events. It was at the Bess Parker I remember that.
Right.
The really cool thing is I lived in Arizona for a while, before I get started, in Kingman, Arizona, and Fess Parker had a big impact on that town there. I think he was from there or something. So very interesting. So
yeah,
anyways,
fun stuff.
Just fun stuff. So anyways, before we get started today, I want you to look at the disclaimer that I have on the screen. Legally, I have to tell you that results are not typical. I'm gonna explain to you some results of me and my students today, but they're not typical. And of course, they're not typical because most people don't do the work. I've taught a lot of classes. I've taught a lot of people, and thousands of people have come through my training, but not thousands of people are actually successful. So it depends. And it's funny, I can't like look at people and say, oh, that one's going to be successful and that one's not going to be successful. It all depends on your mindset of how you change your mind to apply what you've learned and have a belief system that nothing can stop you. And that, I think, is probably the biggest thing that I've learned along my life is again, if you heard the earlier conversation, I wasn't educated beyond the 9th grade, And I think a lot of times they might educate people that they can't do things. So I never got that education. So I can do anything I want, you know.
You can.
That's what my mom told me.
That's right. She's right.
So, but most people watch, and most people wait, and most people almost take action. So the results aren't typical that I'm going to show you, but you didn't show up here to be typical, and you're still here. You know, you're still listening to us, which puts you in a different category. So the disclaimer is there to protect the average person, and I don't think you guys are average. I've spoken at, like I said, live at your events, and I got to shake hands with a lot of you that are in your group there at Dan's group, and one of my favorite, by the way, to speak at. But you know, that's
good.
But anyways, whether it's because of Dan sent you here, or because you found me, you know, maybe on a search of just the general search, and you came across this video, I hope that you realize it's a smart decision for showing up, because most people are trying to figure out how to do this alone. And I know a lot of people now, because of the whole situation, I won't talk about it, that we've gone through 6 years ago, and now that a lot of people are on different video platforms. I can say YouTube because I'm just speaking in general terms. A lot of people go to YouTube and some other websites where there's videos and podcasts and stuff like that, and they try to get a lot of information, but they're taking advice from, like what I was telling you earlier, Dan, from people that have really not experienced a lot of deal transactions. And I can tell you that that makes a huge difference of, you know, if you've done 20 or 30, or you've done thousands of deals. You know, I always like to say, you're getting ready to have brain surgery. Do you want the guy that did 300 operations or 3,000 operations? But I think you're in the right place tonight. What I'm going to show you may or may not change your life, but if you allow it to, it can drastically change the situation that you're in, and how you're going to experience things for a long time. So for years I did this on my own. But before that, I was with the big national seminar companies, the ones that sold the big $50,000, $100,000 mentor programs. I was the mentor that showed up. They hired me kind of like in the beginning stages of their launches of a new guru. And the reason that they did that is because they knew me from my past, you know, because I've been in this business a long time. They knew that when I taught people things, that those people generally went out. I can't say every one of them, because, you know, I can't say that, but everybody who applied my methodologies got good results. You know, they got results, and I'm going to share some of them tonight with you here. But the amazing thing is the fact that they knew that they didn't have me teach whatever the guru was teaching, because they knew my system worked. And what it did was, and they needed this, and I'm not bragging, I'm just relaying a truth. They needed testimonials to fill more seats, to sell more seminars. One of the things that I was told is I'm a diva, and you know, because I wanted what do you call it? Preferential treatment. But I wanted to present the training in a manner that was acceptable and easy to understand, so that the people that were taking the training could actually go out and do things. And a lot of times I would do the 3-day mentorship, where we would go on site and I would take people and look at houses and stuff. We put deals together on site. So that was one of the things that they did that with me, because that helped them create the gurus to be like, oh, wow, look at this. And then they'd show my testimonials from my students, but they never mentioned me. So, but they basically didn't hire me to be on stage. as you note, I like to talk. I like to give a lot of information. I like to give a lot of information that's going to help people, whether they pay me for it or not. Although, you know, they were under the mindset of they don't release anything unless it's paid for. So they paid me to teach their students. They paid me behind the scenes because my strategies were deals that actually closed transactions, you know, that helped them. And in fact, the gurus had a nickname for me. I made that picture. It's not a real halo, trust me. My horn have to hold it up, right? But they called me the savior, because when they would have a situation where a student would be like, hey, I paid 50 grand, they might not have taken my training, most likely haven't, or they haven't even got to the training, and they have had delays or whatever, and they get remorse and they're like, hey, I want my refund. They would literally send me out and pay me, excuse me, to go out and teach that person. And I know that for many years, for a particular seminar company, that's all I did, because everybody wanted a refund, because they hadn't sent me out yet to do the main classes, to be the main instructor, and they had other people out there. So they would send me, and after my training, I guess I would have to say maybe 200 or 300 people that I had, hostile, angry people that I walked into their house to sit down with them and do this training, and they were ready to, you know, light me on fire before I even walked in the door, to where I think out of all of those situations, I had maybe 3 or 4 that wanted a refund afterwards, because what I do works, it gets results. And the gurus hired me because they knew that I could do that. And, you know, the gurus charge 50, 60, 70, $100,000 for these mentor programs. And they gave you a lot of stuff, but the main kicker that I know, a lot of the speakers that were out on the circuit, they were talking about me. You know, they showed deals that I did. They showed deals that my students did. And they weren't talking about the quote guru or the seminar celebrity or whoever it was. So they knew that by projecting that out to the class, that they would make sales and they would get a lot of people on there. So the seminar companies knew that, but there was a problem with that, because you got to the point where a lot of my students would be, you know, seminar companies weren't one and done. They want to keep educating you and educating you and educating you. And their education systems are, you know, oh, come to this event, it's $50,000, like it's nothing. And then they'll say, oh, but we'll give you a $25,000 scholarship. That one always made me laugh, because you know, the thing was only $25,000, but they priced it at 50 and then give you a scholarship for 25 grand, like they're giving you something. But a lot of my students would say, no, thank you, I've got what I need. And I took Cliff's class. So my longevity at the seminar companies was not very long when that started to come back to their sales rooms. So they had a love-hate relationship with me. And Dan, I'll be honest with you, I charged them a boatload of money to do it, because I knew I was good and I knew I got results. So the cool thing is I'm no longer doing that. Last couple of years, I've been doing it for myself. I don't charge the ridiculous prices that they do, because I want people, well, let me say it this way. I look back to myself in that 9th grade position and wish somebody would have taken me at that point in time and showed me everything that I know now in a weekend. It would still have accelerated my life 100-fold to what I had to actually go through, all the learning process of it. So tonight you get to see me, no middleman, no gurus, no watered down versions. It's just me. So I like to present myself in a real manner. I know a lot of people get up there and they wear the fancy watches. I have them, but I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to help you. But like looking at that list, I'm going to look at the slide here for a second. So a lot of the things that I see going on right now are like on the YouTube channels. I call them the influencers. They're really not. I have to be careful how I say things. Their objective is to entertain you more than educate you, I believe. And entertaining you is a higher dollar reference point for them. But what I want to do is I want you to call me up and say, Cliff, I just did this deal. That's my accolades. Yes, I make some money doing it too, but that's besides the point. I'm not like they do. But they focus on one thing. They focus on wholesaling. So you'll see somebody speaking about wholesaling deals, and that's all they talk about. And then everything is just narrow-mindedly wrapped around doing wholesale deals, or Section 8 rentals, or hard money lending, or deal partnerships, where you start putting together deals with somebody with the money, you've got the time to find the property, or you've got the property and you find somebody to build a house on it, whatever. Partnerships are fun. Fix and flips, that's where all the TV shows pretty much came from, is they would buy a house, fix it, and then flip it. I did a lot of those myself, and I did a lot of partnership type deals with students of mine over the years, to where we did that on a major basis in different markets. Retail sales, I haven't done a lot of those, but I have done probably more than the average person. But I tend to like to move quickly through a deal and eliminate risk, reduce risk at least, reduce exposure. I'd rather make $10,000 in 20 minutes than make $30,000 in 60 days. So if you don't understand that, you never will. So retail sales, I kind of didn't really get into, because when you're dealing with a retail buy, I'll give you an example. I did a house in Pasadena, California. It was a $2.5 million house. I bought it for $927,500 and sold it to the woman that bought it as a retail. I did the rehab, I did the marble and all of that stuff, the granite countertops and the cabinets, everything. It's a big job. And I drove past it, I'd say about 2 or 3 months after the transaction went through, and I was out of it, and there was all these cars in the front yard, and I was, work trucks. And so I just, I'm Cliff, Honey Badger, I just walked in the front door and I'm like, who's in charge here? Like I had a purpose or whatever. I thought it was funny. And of course the general contractor says, oh, I am. And so I talked to him and I explained to him, how I did the deal and everything. And I said, what are you doing? And I'm looking around. This woman bought this house for $2 million and gutted it because she wanted to redo it the way she wanted to do it. That was the last one I did. Because it's like, no matter what you like, and I mean, I made it look really cool. I did some really neat things in it. But it wasn't what she wanted. She wanted something completely different. She had the money to do it. So what that taught me was the almost $400,000 that I spent just in labor and materials on the rehab could have went in my pocket. She would have bought it the way it was. So, deals, those are my favorite. And we'll get more into that later. Mortgage banking, I started in the mortgage business. That's how I got into this, and I'll explain a little bit in a bit, and which led to me doing hard money loans and advisory. I love doing advisory work or consulting work or whatever you want to call it. Those are the fun things for me, because I get to work my brain without any of the stress. Like Dan, you call me up with a deal and I'm like, bam, I can figure it out and I can tell you exactly what to do. Here's your best 3 options. You should do one of these 3 and either one of those are going to work. Don't do this one over here or that over there. And then I hang up the phone and I can go back to the pool, or I can go back to the jet ski, or I can go back to whatever it was I was doing. And then you finish the project and then call me up and say, oh, I got it done. Yay. Right. That's what I like to do. That's my favorite thing. Is that lazy? I don't know if you could call that lazy,
Hey,
but
if it works for you and you're happy,
I do like to relax. That is one of my mottos. So, people in the business that are teaching you one of these things specifically, what happens when you don't find one of those things? You know, like if you just learn how to wholesale, and over the years, people come to me and they say, I just want to learn how to do this, right? And I say, well, do this. And then when this pops up, you're ready for it. So, but if you're ready for all of it, at that point in time, when these little things, these specific type of deals pop up, you'll be able to jump on it real quick and work on it. So the ones that focus, I call them the one and dones. You'll see people like me come in and they'll teach you how to do this one thing. And then when that market dries up, and like I've said, I've been doing, real estate for 34 years. How many markets have we gone through? How many catastrophic markets have we gone through? How many massively aggressive markets have we gone through? There's always one strategy that will work better in those, scenarios, but you've got to know them all in order to be able to pick and choose. Otherwise, you're walking over a lot of deals to get to that one deal. And it's a lot of money that you pass up. I started doing one way and I turned my back on other types of deals because I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to do the one way. So I teach people how to avoid that. And most of the people that you see teaching these things, you don't see them anymore after a couple of months. The fad goes away and then you don't hear from them anymore. I've seen every market condition. I've seen every type of front door that you can think of. And it's not luck, it's genius. Because when you have the right person showing you how to do these things, it helps your game. And this is a game. We're playing Monopoly, guys. I mean, have fun doing this. It's Monopoly. It might be with real money, but it's still, we're playing a game. And what is the rule? Whoever dies with the most wins. I don't believe that, but you might be looking at the list and think to yourself, I just wish I could do one of those things. Well, that's okay, because it's a good place to start. But I want you to know that I know how to do everything on that list. I've done at least a dozen times each of those, right? It's a lot more. I love, well, the reason I moved to California was I do Section 8 rentals, and I do them in the Rust Belt, in the Middle East, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, up in that area there, around the Great Lakes. And Section 8s are really good there, and they're managed well. And if you know how to operate in those environments, you can have a really good rental business. And, it's backed by the government. And I always tell people, hey, when I rent a $3,500 house to a regular individual in California and they trash the house versus me renting 3 houses in Ohio for, $6,000, and those people, sweep the floors and keep them clean, it's just a preference that I have over one to the other. I find that people, if they appreciate where they're at and what they're getting, and there's a way to project that to the tenants, they take care of the property for you. One of the things that I wish we could do, and I know they're starting to do some programs now, I haven't really looked into it. I want to have a Section 8 type scenario for people to have home ownership, but I think that doesn't work for the methods that they're actually doing it anyway. So,
well, I can tell you, Cliff, from my experience, because I've done the Midwest and I've done Section 8. I mean, the beauty of doing all the different things you're talking about is some have to kind of be done like fix and flip more locally.
Yeah.
Because you really got to have the hands on, but a lot of the other things can be done nationally.
Yeah.
Without having to move to those locations. But what I found with the Section 8 is I asked all of my Section 8 tenants, you're getting a check from the government to pay your rent. Yes. And you like that? Yes. How would you like the same department that gives you that check every month to give you a check for your mortgage payment and you would own that house? And I can't tell you how many people told me, no, that's too much responsibility. I don't want to go down that road. I don't want to deal with the home ownership. And so what I found is that there is a conscious level of people throughout the nation or the world that are all different levels. And
Yeah.
so you have to understand what people can do at certain levels that they just will not do, you know, and move beyond that level. So, you know, that's just my experience on the, you know, ownership of Section 8, because I'm moving on to vacant land, and I can see with vacant land that there are certain levels of consciousness that will come in and say, well, yeah, that's great. I want, you know, just an acre, but I don't want to try to make money off of it because I don't want all those tenants. So you really got, you know, kind of get a sense of what conscious level you want to deal with and where you're going, so that you don't end up spending a whole lot of time in areas that you just go, well, that doesn't work here, but if I just did that with the same thing at a different conscious level, it would work.
Yeah, and that's why, like, when you look at this list, that's why you don't want to pick just one.
Right.
You know, you want to diversify, because I've had situations where I was driving to a house and I saw another house for sale, and I put like blinders on because I was going to this other house. And then that house flipped or whatever it did, and it made the person a lot of money, and I ignored it. And as I got older, I realized I could have stopped there, because I know the numbers that I would have spent on it, they did less, you know, so I would have probably picked it up and I would have made money on it. So you have to be open, you have to be diversified. And that's what I teach. I teach a broad band of all of that, you know, so. But so now I'm going to brag a little bit. Okay. Even though my notes say I'm not bragging, I'm going to brag a little bit. You'll notice that that's right off of Laguna right there, me on the jet ski. Don't laugh at my funny hat. That's a communication hat.
And that's out in Florida.
No, that's in Laguna Beach.
Laguna Beach. Okay. Wow.
In the Pacific.
Okay. Cool.
I travel when I want. I eat where I want. That's Mastro's, that steak down there. If you've ever been to Mastro's, if you haven't, save. I don't know how much it costs. It might be a couple $100 for that ribeye right there. And then I like seafood. You can see on that bottom picture there, we had a bunch. I like to eat, and that's why, you know, the last time you saw me, I was like 75 pounds heavier than I am now. But I don't like to look at the menu except to decide what I want to eat. I don't look at the prices, you know, because if you start looking at the prices, you're like, oh, I don't want to spend $100 for a piece of meat, or I don't want to get this because it's that. And I found that my happy place is living. All right. Not surviving, but living. And I had to make a lot of money. Now I'm not like Rodeo Drive kind of guy, right? I'm somewhere in between there. I just like to do things that make me happy. The jet skiing, I had to buy the fastest jet ski in the world. And then my son was like, well, what am I going to ride? So I had to buy him one too. I love flying. I like spending time with my family. I love the beach. I love having a good time. And I don't like it says there at the bottom, I don't need any permission from anybody to do things. And so that meant that I had to make a lot of money, right? And at least enough money to afford the lifestyle that I had. So I had to do the things in order to, the things that I do in order to pay for that lifestyle. My kids are top of the list, then me. And I'm single now, so I don't have a spouse that I have to spend money on. So don't get any ideas, ladies. Don't get any ideas. I'm kind of enjoying this right now, but I'm always open. Good opportunities. You know, I'm just kidding. But I do what I want without having to look at my bank account to see if I can do it. And I lived that way for a long time, to where, oh, I'd really like to go eat sushi, but I got to pay the electric bill, right? at one point in time, I looked at my bank account for some reason on my personal bank account, and it had this new thing. It had this circle with like a chart, and it was like, where do you spend your money? You know? So when I was like, what is this really big one here? And then when I looked at what it meant for that big section, it was sushi.
So a lot invested there.
And that first month, I think it was like $9,000 worth of sushi that we ate that month. But we like sushi, you know, and when you travel and you're eating out every day for lunch and dinner, it adds up real quick. So you need to make a lot of money. Some people would tell me, well, gosh, don't spend so much money. I'm like, well, gosh, just make more money and it's not a problem. So I like that mentality better. So it's not luck. Although I will tell you that I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time and have the right intelligence to take the opportunities and advantages that I was exposed to. I want you to build a system rather than go out there and like, if you watch the TV shows, the person that's flipping the house is 100% active in that activity. You know, they're swinging the hammer, or they're yelling at the contractors, or they're going to the house. There's no need to do any of that. I mean, you can do it if you want to, and I suggest that everybody does it in the beginning, but I'm going to teach you how to do this as a business model, because this is a business, and you can't scale it if you have to go to all of the houses. So when I scaled it through, you know, everybody laughs about my seminar history, but I taught a lot of people, and I built a network of a lot of people out there that were finding deals and calling me and saying, what do I do now? And my joke was, I'm older, so some of you might not get it, but I'll explain it. But have I got a deal for you? You know, there used to be a
Groucho Marx.
Groucho Marx, yeah. And people, I don't remember the exact scenario, but he would have a deal for somebody, and he'd be like, have I got a deal for you? So unaware, you know, luckily I was out there teaching all of these people. So there's a lot of luck involved, but you got to back it up with the skill, and you want a system that's running the architecture. You want that architecture to run the system so that you don't have to, so that you can go on the jet skis and go flying in your airplane and go eat at nice fancy restaurants and go to the movies and you know, go to what other things do people, that's what I like to do. I like to eat and go down the water and be in the air. So and I like to lounge around. There's
enjoying life.
Yeah, I like pool cabanas because they have
there's
bars.
So many people with so many different things, and everybody gets to pick what they like in life to enjoy.
Exactly. So what I tell everybody, you know, people will be like,
uh-oh, we just went offline here. Let's see if we can get back online here with Cliff. Okay. Let me get over here and text him and let him know that something dropped out. PPED dropped out. Log in, log in again, AJIN. Here we go. Okay. Let's see what we're going to do here. Not quite sure why we dropped out, but what I will do is stop the recording. Stop the recording.